All right, we've talked about the ocean and fisheries. Let's move on to land and talk about agriculture and livestock. So we know that there are many different adaptations that we can use to adapt to climate change, and we know that they work. All right, so on average, agronomic adaptation improves yields by the equivalent of 15 to 18% of current yields. But this effectiveness is highly variable. So that means that some crops, such as corn or maize, we have seen we can actually increase the amount of maize we're producing with these adaptation programs. That's first graph in the top left there. The blue is showing if we adapt, we can actually increase the amount we are producing even as the temperature also increases. Same thing for wheat. We can actually have higher yields of wheat as temperature increases if we use adaptation. However, not all crops are like this. Notice that in tropical regions, no matter what we do, the amount of wheat we produce is going to decrease, right? So we will have to change where we are producing wheat rather than in tropical regions. It'll have to move to temperate regions. But rice will be more beneficial in tropical regions, right? You can see that in the lower right there, with these adaptation measures, as temperature increases, the amount of rice yielded from tropical regions also increases, right? So there's that give and take. We know that adaptation works, but we're going to have to focus it on certain crops and certain locations where it works the best. Right? And you can see that there's lots of different agronomic adaptation opportunities, right? We can change the cultivars we're using, so the specific species of wheat. Some types of wheat grow better than others in different environments, right? So we just choose the crops that grow better in warmer environments. And we can adjust our plant date. So what day of the year we plant, that doesn't have as much of a benefit. Cultivar adjustment can benefit 23%, whereas planting date only improves it by 3%, so not as great. But if we do both planting date and cultivar adjustment, right, we can get back up to that high adaptation percentage. We can also change how we're irrigating. We can change how we fertilize. There are many other adaptations that if we do all together can actually increase the amount of food producing even as temperatures rise. So that was agriculture, crops. We also need to think about animals, and adaptation in livestock production will potentially be strengthened by adoption of multi-level adaptive strategies to minimize negative impacts, right? That just means that it's not just single farm decisions. It is also state decisions, federal decisions, international decisions, things like that. So adaptations for livestock systems center on adjusting management to available resources, using breeds better adapted to the prevailing climate. So just like choosing different cultivars of wheat, we need to choose different breeds of cows, right? We also need to remove barriers to adaptation, such as improving credit access. In the US, we know that a lot of our small farmers are suffering right now. It's very hard to be a farmer. It's hard to get loans. It's hard to get support. It's really, really hard work. But if we are going to adapt to climate change, we need to make it easier to be a farmer.